Good morning. I'm so happy to see you all in the chat, and want to let you know that despite what may seem like so much of the world crumbling around us, we can approach each day with a kind of reverence for being alive, to see another day, to live past the legal and geopolitical nightmare in which we are currently embroiled. And what is that Chinese expression, may you live in interesting times, or is it the other way around? Look, these are interesting times, and it's your choice that you will either meet the moment or you won't. And anyone who has the ability to watch this show, despite the challenges that we may face, whether that be economic or financial or personal, we have more power, more security, more safety than so many others who are being affected either by this regime or well before this chaos. Just the fact of the world in which they were born, their families of origin, and so on. And so on this show today, in addition to breaking down the breaking legal news, I want us to be reminded of how we can re-engage in our communities and also re-engage in our own selves. And friends, I have finally gotten back to Massachusetts briefly. And look, I have, if you can see them, the Taub Live. I have one prototype, the Prism mug. And we're going to fix the prototype a little bit. And as soon as I can do that, my beloved mods, I see you guys, Jason, and Deb and Susan. I will be sending you the prototype. And then when I can figure it out, we will find a way to offer them up to the other Prism mates, I guess. I'll figure that out, you guys, but I just want to let you know, cheers. And the theme of the show today is going to be that kind of balance. Prism, remember, it is a kind of way of thinking, a way of being. What we are looking for is physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health. And they come together with light and coffee. So let's get down to it. Let's start with the fabulous news of the day. So the fabulous news of the day is this, and it's huge. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which kind of presides or has jurisdiction over appeals and motions brought up from courts, the federal trial courts below, including the state of Washington, including the state of California. I mentioned Washington now for a reason. They ruled yesterday that little baby scribble face, despite his temper tantrum on the first day he took office on January 20, when he tried to put out an executive order changing the Constitution and changing the definition of citizenship, right? He wanted to kill birthright citizenship. This notion that has been embedded, as we discussed, in the U.S. Constitution since the beginning of, I guess it was the 14th Amendment, right? This notion that, I'm saying the 14th Amendment, but I want to be absolutely clear here. I'm like, I should not do this on the fly, but he, by executive order, tried to say that birthright citizenship does not exist. And as we know, the legal case, United States versus Kim Ark, right, and this dates back to 1898, made clear in 1898 that a child born, as you know, in the United States is a citizen, even if the parents are not citizens. Now, this is was really critical And this, of course, is the 14th, goes back to the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. But as I wanted to point out just a little bit later, because even though the 14th Amendment to the Constitution passed as part of Reconstruction after the Civil War, it was sitting right there, but it wasn't until 1898 that the U.S. Supreme Court made that clear. Now, as you know, Donald Trump tried to eviscerate that by executive order. And there was a lawsuit challenging that. And that lawsuit was filed by the state of Washington, as well as other states challenging that. And the lawsuit was filed. The lawsuit was filed. Hold on, let me just filed by the state of Washington and others. And just yesterday, the Ninth Circuit affirmed what the trial court had done below, which was this. The trial court below had said, no effing way, right? No way. The trial court said, we don't think you can just change the Constitution by the stroke of a pen. This Ninth Circuit panel, these three judges, this was they were certain that this idea of birthright citizenship, and I'm going to read it. This is what the Department of Justice said. This idea of I'm stumbling on my words, but the court basically said that this idea of birthright citizenship is essential, and they said it's about the court said this is not a case about immigration. It's about citizenship rights that the 14th Amendment and federal statute intentionally and explicitly place beyond the president's authority to condition or deny. Okay, so there were three judges. They all agreed. There was one on this panel who wrote a concurring opinion, right? The concurring means she agrees with the decision to leave in place this stay. So let me back up, okay? So the court below said, look, this is not kosher, and I don't care if President Trump thinks he's going to get rid of birthright citizenship. We don't agree, right? So that's what the trial court said. And yesterday, this is huge again, the Ninth Circuit, the three judges said, we agree with the trial court, at the very least, procedurally. All three agreed that this would not go into effect, that Donald Trump cannot do this, and that instead we have to move forward to a trial. That the status quo is birthright citizenship still exists, right? His order was such that it would go in place in 30 days, that anyone born in the United States after 30 days, if their parents were not citizens, then they would not be. Well, that is not going to go into effect, right? The trial court said, as did the Ninth Circuit. Now, I read to you the reasoning, and I want you to keep in mind here that even though that one judge concurred, she didn't decide not to opine on the merits. It really means nothing. So what I want to tell you, and this is what I want to share with you, is the actual filing in this case, and I'm going to open this up for you to see, because I always like to make sure you get this legal lesson here. So let me show this to you. Share screen. Okay, I got this off of Court Listener, and I think you can see this now. I'm going to try to blow this up a little bit. Okay, this is from yesterday. This is State of Washington et al. Versus Donald J. Trump et al. This is... Okay, and then also the amici curiae, which are these friends of the court lawyers. That just means they get permission from the court to file their opinions in the matter. Okay, so this is the order by Canby, M. Smith, and Forrest. These are three circuit court judges in the Ninth Circuit. Okay, so appellants, in this case, the appellant is Donald Trump. Appellants have not made a strong showing that they are likely to succeed on the merits of this appeal. So Donald Trump's emergency motion for a stay of the district court's February 6th preliminary injunction is denied. Okay, translation, you guys. Translation. On January 20th, Donald Trump issued an executive order trying to eviscerate, to end birthright citizenship. On February 6th, the trial court judge said, I am going to halt this. I am going to freeze this and not let it go into effect. That happened on February 6th. And then yesterday, on February 19th, the court said to Donald Trump, I know you think it's an emergency and you want us to, remove that stay. You want this to go into effect. The judges on the Ninth Circuit said, no way, Jose. And so this is my favorite part. The emergency order to partially stay to stop the smart district court ruling is denied. Now, this is my favorite part of this whole order. The existing briefing schedule for the court below remains in effect. The clerk will place this case on the calendar for June 2025. Now, the existing briefing schedule for this court, not the court below. What that means is the Ninth Circuit is going to listen to this appeal. And they're not going to, it's on the docket for June. Okay, what does that mean and why am I excited? Donald Trump, on his first action in office, was to sign this executive order on January 20th to stop birthright citizenship. Now what we know is every effort he has made in court has been stymied. The trial court judge said that's not going to go into effect. The Ninth Circuit, when he begged them, said, yeah, it's not going to go into effect. Sorry, buddy. And they said, but we'll listen to your arguments. We'll see you back here in June. I think that's a victory because Donald Trump has always been the person who has dragged his heels and time has been on his side. But time is not on his side and birthright citizenship will continue to live for another day. Now, that is what's going on here, and I'm pretty damn thrilled about that. Now, it's not all, as you know, wine and roses at this point. I want to be clear that in some instances, time is on his side. So let me give you that, and I want to explain what happened with Judge Chutkan's order the other day. Okay, so this is from 2 days ago, and this is where Judge Chutkan, Tanya Chutkan of the D.C. Circuit, has the case that I mentioned the other day, where we have approximately a dozen states, AGs, challenging the authority of DOGE to come in and slash and burn. And what they wanted, they had filed this case on February 13th. And what these folks, let me just remove this for a second. What these folks wanted is to immediately stop through a TRO, a temporary restraining order, stop DOGE from doing what it was doing, from accessing information, from firing people, and so on. And this is the case where they actually had the cojones inside the executive office of the president, that Donald Trump's team actually tried to claim that Elon Musk doesn't administrate DOGE and that he's merely an advisor to the president. And when they were asked by the judge, well, who's in charge? They said, we don't know. Okay, so Tanya Chutkan, in that decision on Wednesday, decided, actually, I think she made the decision late Tuesday night. I'm sorry, one day off because she had a hearing, unusual hearing on the holiday. She makes the decision later on Tuesday. And basically, she chastises, she insults, and she questions what the Donald Trump administration is doing. But she says, as a legal matter, I can't put this temporary restraining order in. Now, later, there could be a preliminary injunction, right, which is easier to get. But at this point, she is saying, I need more information about the concrete harm that was suffered here. Now, I want to say to you, this is not a loss. It's not a full-on victory, but what happened should not make us worried about the long term. And so I want to read to you why. And this is what Judge Chutkan said. Plaintiffs legitimately this is the states, right, call into question what appears to be the unchecked authority of an unelected individual and an entity that was not created by Congress, over which it has no oversight. So I think what we just need now is a little more time for the state AGs to get a little more evidence of concrete harm caused to them by these actions of DOGE. And that case will continue. Okay, but at the end of the day, so far, we're seeing a lot of good news in the courts. In some case, moving quickly, like stopping that executive order trying to redefine birthright citizenship. And in some case, not as quickly with Judge Chutkan. And in defense of Chutkan, if she had put in place that temporary restraining order, I believe the Supreme Court would have slapped that back. And that would have appeared to be a victory. So she is very much bound by and mindful of the limits of her authority and the damage it would do to the courts and this case if she were to overstep. And that is a challenging place to be. Okay, so that's kind of like the positive news. And I want to remind you, there's a heck of a lot more going on. Feel free to follow the litigation tracker on Just Security. I'm popping this up on your screen so you remember. I'm only going to highlight some of this because it's more than a full-time job for lawyers, obviously, to even list the cases, let alone stay on top of it. And I'm going to try to highlight for you what I think is some of the more important cases. Now, more in the world of breaking law. And that is everything that Donald Trump is currently doing, which appears to be creating some kind of quid pro quo once again with Ukraine to try to provide them some kind of semblance of defense from Russia if they give up mineral rights, ostensibly to pay us back for our investment to defend them, but more as a shakedown, something that Dahlia Lithwick and I discussed yesterday, the theme of her brilliant piece that was in Slate yesterday. And I encourage you to read that piece. This is where Dahlia really cracked the code as to what the whole Donald Trump and DOGE system is about. So let me tell you, I think it's not so much, most of this is not so much a legal issue as it is a question of our place in the world, our security as a nation, and kind of geopolitical alignments. I'm not a political scientist, but I am an American, and I am concerned. So I'm going to share with you, with no real legal commentary, but just kind of news commentary, this excerpt of an interview of Sheldon Whitehouse, the senator, with Lawrence O'Donnell, discussing what is going down right now in Saudi Arabia, where the future of Ukraine is being brokered without Vladimir Zelensky there, and also where Donald Trump has the audacity in public, as well as on his speaking in public, as well as on his social media site, to accuse Zelensky as having started the war. That is the equivalent, and as you know, Russia invaded Ukraine, okay? I just want you to know that. I think you know that. This is the equivalent if Donald Trump said that it was not Adolf Hitler that invaded Poland, but that Poland started the war in 1939. It's crazy. So let me play for you Sheldon Whitehouse kind of tying this all together. And let me just say, spoiler alert, although he doesn't say this as concisely as I am about to, that email lady, Hillary Clinton, who said at the debate in the fall of 2016 that Donald Trump was Putin's puppet. And Donald said, you're the puppet. You're the puppet. No, he is the puppet. And it appears to me that for whatever reason, he is doing Putin's bidding. And it appears to me, again, just as a layperson and a lawyer, that we are more closely aligned as a nation right now with Russia than we are with our NATO allies. Okay? I thought people voted for Donald Trump because they were concerned about the price of eggs, which are through the roof. Let's listen to Whitehouse.
He's flagrantly lying And the worst thing is that not just that a president of the United States is lying about something where he's obviously lying, but that his lies track perfectly with the talking points of Vladimir Putin. So if you go back to, remember Trump Russia, the Mueller report said there was Trump Russia, bipartisan Senate intelligence report said there was Trump Russia, repeated trials brought in evidence showing there was Trump Russia, there was, is, and ever shall be Trump Russia. This is Trump Russia rearing its ugly head again. And I think a lot of my colleagues on the Republican side are going to be pushing back hard behind the scenes on the White House in the days ahead.
Okay. I think pushing back hard sounds really good. What sounds even better to me, though, would be impeach the MF. Okay? It's time. And I know the votes aren't in the House and the votes aren't there in the Senate, but Donald Trump should not be president of the United States, and neither should Elon Musk or Vladimir Putin. Now, speaking of which, and before I get to our person of the day and Crazy Town, I want to share with you some of my favorite politicians, elected officials. First, let's share this clip of J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. And, you know, what he has said here and what he has said on his social media Blue Sky site is not for the faint of heart. And I'm sharing it because I promise you, one thing that I will never do is this. I will not take part in the lie, right? I'm not going to take part in the lie and pretend that, for example, Zelensky invaded Russia. I'm not going to pretend that. And I'm also not going to pretend that times are normal now, right? I'm talking about the balance. I'm talking about admitting what's going on and then figuring out how to live through it to the other side. So here is some pretty straightforward words about the situation we're in from Pritzker. Okay, again, governor of Illinois.
The seed that grew into a dictatorship in Europe a lifetime ago didn't arrive overnight. It started with everyday Germans mad about inflation and looking for someone to blame. I'm watching with a foreboding dread what is happening in our country right now. After we've discriminated against, deported, or disparaged all the immigrants and the gay and lesbian and transgender people, the developmentally disabled, the women and the minorities, once we've ostracized our neighbors and betrayed our friends, after that, when the problems we started with are still there staring us in the face, what comes next? All the atrocities of human history lurk in the answer to that question. And if we don't want to repeat history, then for God's sake, in this moment, we better be strong enough to learn from it.
Okay. Learn from history. What does that mean? Well, I'm not an elected official, and I'm not sure if any electeds are watching now. Hi, if you are. But for the rest of us, what I want to learn from history is how to help people who are more vulnerable, how to engage in my community and build strength and not just resistance. And so I'm going to talk about that in a second. But before that, I think after that very harsh, recollection of Nazi Germany, we need a little break. And so our little break is, Tank the tortoise. I showed you Tank's beautiful picture yesterday, how Tank is a fan of the show. And someone pointed out to me that I had not actually, here's Tank, that I had not actually, hey Tank, explained more about Tank. And what I want to say, as you know, is that Tank is a tortoise and one of the beloved pets of a regular who watches our show. And she heard yesterday and saw me put Tank's photo up, and you're not going to believe this, but Tank was watching Dahlia and I. And so I want to share this picture. Oh my gosh. Here we go. There is Tank. I don't know if you can see, but there's Tank sitting on a little couch or bed on a little blanket. And there is Dahlia and I up on the screen talking about the rule of law. And Tank looks quite interested in the conversation. And so thank you, Tank, and Tank's mom for always participating in our show. Now, on another high note, I want to share with you a person I, as you know, greatly admire. It is Jasmine Crockett. I can't get enough of Representative Crockett. So let's listen to more of her inspiration.
From being the dork that was jumping around on stage to allegedly being this amazing genius that's going to save this entire country, the country that he wasn't born in, and a country that maybe he doesn't agree with the idea of a democratic republic, considering the fact that he may have been more so on the side of apartheid. So, like, yeah, I am shocked. And I'm also shocked that MAGA, who is clearly a cult, would allow somebody else to come in and do anything. Now, what we've seen, though, is that Donald Trump's approval ratings still supposedly are kind of either going up or holding while Elon Musk is falling, right? So you've got the pushback of Steve Bannon. Like, the fact that I agree with him on anything in life really has me like, oh, yeah, we really are in the upside down right now. So I do think that there will be more hate that ends up being spewed towards him once people start to really wake up and realize, like, wait a minute, so you're telling me that I don't have any Social Security so that you...
So fabulous. And what Crockett's referring to is the flare up again of the battle between Elon Musk and Steve Bannon, the sort of elite techno bro wing of MAGA versus the supposedly, salt of the earth, working class white man part of MAGA. And of course, Bannon doesn't like Musk, and Musk just tends to ignore Bannon because Musk has all the power. And so we will keep our eye on that. And no, I don't like Crockett. I don't support or like anything that Bannon has to say. And I'm also glad when there is infighting, creating instability inside of the MAGA, the very dangerous, mendacious, malevolent, and moronic MAGA movement. So who is my person of the day? Well, my person of the day is a whole team, and that is Midas Touch. And I know many folks watching here probably know what I'm going to say, but this is a podcast that is fabulous, and I'm sure many of you watch it. And the best news ever is that obviously it is having an impact right now, which is what we need. And it's kind of amazing that, and I'm going to share this with you, it keeps rising and rising in terms of viewership. And you are not going to believe who Midas Touch has dethroned as the top podcast in America. Let me play this now.
Before we go, the left-leaning podcast, Midas Touch, has just done the unthinkable, dethroned Joe Rogan to become the country's most popular podcast. Do you see this as a sign of a bigger political shift? Because even these three guys specifically, they are not your touchy-feely progressives. They're like three bros from Long Island.
Yeah. Look, I think that this does signal, one, Democrats and let's just call it the non-conservative ecosystem catching up to where the kind of Rogan right has been.
And they're not policy guys. They're anti-Trump guys. And they crank it out all day, every day.
And I do think the fact that this is organic, this is not a part of the ecosystem that was just built up, with heavy investment from millionaires and billionaires. These are folks who've been grinding and working. And my suspicion is they probably were going to get to this point anyway, but it.
Okay. So yay. Dethroning Joe Rogan is great. And I love how these guys, the Marcellus brothers, are called three bros from Long Island. Obviously, there's more folks on their network. There's Politics Girl, there's Legal AF. Affiliated with Midas Touch is also Michael Cohen. And so these are great people, and there's plenty of space for all of us to offer alternative views to both corporate media as well as to, as they say, crank out the criticism of Donald Trump, because we need it now more than ever. Now, before I get to Crazy Town, I want to explain to you in a kind of prism-like way, again, hello, this theme, physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, and mental health, how that ties into the political moment that we're in, how we can meet the moment. And this goes to why tomorrow, sadly, I will not be having a show, but it is for a good reason. And that is tomorrow, I have my first board meeting. I was just elected onto the board of a nonprofit called the Oakland Literacy Council. And it is a huge honor for me to be part of this, in part because, and I think I may have mentioned this to you, but I'm going to share the screen, in part because this was one of the boards my mother was on before she passed away. And while she was still alive, when she was first in the hospital back in September, the executive director, lovely person, had come by to visit my mom. And my mom had said, I think it's time for this. She was very busy, and she's still up into the end on so many boards. And she thought, this was one that might make sense for me. And here this is for me, maybe to apply. This is, to be on this board. And there's a reason for this, in that the board has a fundraiser every year. And in November, I helped them line up their author speaker, a good friend of mine, the brilliant author Angie Kim, who wrote the book Miracle Creek, as well as hold on, I want to show you. She wrote Miracle Creek and Happiness Falls, and I probably should share her face with you too, but I'm not going to be able to kind of manage that. At any rate, what I want to tell you is that this organization means so much to me. And it works to pair volunteer tutors with adults in Oakland County, Michigan, who are either learning English for the first time because they have come here as immigrants, or they weren't trained well when they were coming up. And so for some, they're learning English for the first time. Some are now studying for their GED or building their reading, math, or computer skills. And you can learn or volunteer or give by going to this website. And so it's kind of incredible. This has been around for decades. It is totally nonpartisan. It brings together wonderful people in the community. Funders include banks and other organizations. And what I'm really the most happy about is the space that we occupy in Oakland County, Michigan, is right near also in the same building as folks who do job placement. And so there was a wonderful person, a tutor, and a young man who came here from Afghanistan, very shy, lovely young man in his late teens, who came here and then learned how to read and write in English. He was a brilliant accountant, but didn't have the confidence or the English skills. And they were able to, after he went through this tutoring, this lovely one-on-one relationship with his tutor, to also help him with job interviews and find a job. And so this is a kind of wonderful full service organization. And so the reason why I won't be doing the show is I will be doing that. Why is this about PRISM? Why is this about meeting the moment? Because let me tell you, regardless of who is in the White House or who is in your governor's office or who is running the sewer department, I don't care what. In any society from the beginning of time, there are going to be people who deserve to have literacy but haven't had the opportunity. And for me, reading is magic. Reading is, words are, whether they're spoken or written, doors into new worlds, possibilities of human connection. As you can see, I live my life with speech and writing. And we all know it is a critical form of communication. And so for me, devoting some of my time to this organization makes me understand that I can transcend and live through these very difficult times. And so I want to encourage you, in addition to whatever organizing you are doing, and I hope you're calling your senator or member of Congress, but I want you to do things that matter to real people, regardless of who is in political office. I feel that that can be incredibly healing. And now, let us do Crazy Town. Here we go. So, my friends, I have made the promise that you will never have to hear if I can help it, and I can usually help it, Donald Trump's voice or see his face, unless it's scribbled out on this show. So in lieu of showing you a video of his idiocy, in this instance, I'm just giving to you the language by Asen, who is does all the video clipping for Midas Touch. You'll see this on Blue Sky. I'm showing you an image of Donald Trump answering press questions. And so I will read this for you. Trump on DOGE. We're going to go into Fort Knox to make sure the gold is still there. You know what? We're going to go into Fort Knox. You know about that. We hope everything is fine with Fort Knox, but we're going to go to Fort Knox and make sure the gold is still there. Friends, yes, there is a gold reserve at Fort Knox. And yes, we are not on the gold standard, just so you know that. And apparently, there is about $400 billion worth of gold buried somehow under that building, what have you. I gotta tell you, I don't flippin' trust DOGE. I don't trust Elon Musk and his teenage 20-year-old tech bros who are famous for, some of them, hacking into systems illegally and stealing information, and others for white supremacy and so on. I don't trust these thieves to just look at the gold in Fort Knox. I mean, okay? But the craziest of crazy town is that he is going to Fort Knox like he's a fucking cartoon character, like on Bugs Bunny, to get the gold. This is where we are as a nation. I'm just reporting. I'm not condoning, and I'm laughing at this. I will see you guys back here on Monday at 8:30. Again, going to be at a board meeting. Cannot do the show tomorrow. But I will hope that you will watch my interview with Dahlia Lithwick. It is one for a lifetime. You can watch it again if you have not watched it already. And I will see you all on Monday.